Gerda was doing the nighttime rounds. Rockinjima had always been empty except for Usha and my family household, though checking that the doors and windows were all closed had no real purpose. Ever since the time Natsui had condemned such an attitude as being careless, the nighttime rounds had become part of the servant's daily duty. In the first place, Natsui had ordered this because of the occasional witch disturbances. Everyone who came and left this island knew about the legend of Beatrice, the Witch of the Forest. It had been established as the island's characteristic ghost story. Because of that, it was only natural that some people would claim that when they thought they were alone in the mansion, they would hear a strange sound or see a shadow of a person. However, when that created a little too much of a disturbance and reached Natsui's ears, she made a fuss, thinking that some suspicious person might be entering and leaving. Apparently, she had roused all the servants and had them check throughout the mansion. Because of all that panic over the witch had become before Goda's arrival, he had only heard about it from the more senior servants. Ghost stories like that could be found in any workplace. Even at hotels and restaurants Goda worked at, there had been plenty of them. So when he had heard about the story on the island, he'd give a forced smile and said, "I'll say that kind of thing here after all." That forced smile aside, he had figured that when Rome do as the Romans do and taken it seriously. Yoda went along with it on the outside, but in the heart he'd assumed it was a childish trick. At first, that is.
これは確かに不気味ですね。なるほど。過去の使用人たちがいろいろと騒ぎたくなる気持ちもわかるものです。
He could understand how doing the rounds on an eerie night like this might believe that they'd seen a ghost or saw a lace curtain waving in the breeze from a window that they hadn't closed.
肖像画の魔女をバカにするとたたりがあるか。大怪我をして辞めた使用人もいるらしいし、怪我は勘弁だな。俺もこの年だ。二度とこんな厚遇の職場には恵まれねえだろうよ。ああ、肖像画の魔女様、真面目に働きますんで、一つ穏便に頼みます。
Goda prayed to the portrait, his hands together as though it was a Shinto shrine. At that time he thought he heard a sound. The kitchen, without a sound of something metal falling on the floor. Maybe a mouse or a cockroach had come out and knocked over some of the dishes. No, how could that be? It was usually cleaned thoroughly. Thinking he'd check it out what noise really had been, Goda entered the kitchen. He turned on the kitchen light. When he did, he heard a strange sound. Clank, 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 clank. To a cook like Goda, that sound felt like the lid on a pressure cooker or something shaking. Surely there wouldn't be a pot on the burner with no one else in the kitchen. Even if someone was using the gas, walking away from it would be quite dangerous. Just in case, Goda decided to inspect the area around the gas range. When he did, in the corner of the gas range, the pressure cooker had really been set out just as he'd thought, but the flame wasn't on, and yet the lid was clanking. Something was fermenting and leaking gas. How could that be? Then was there a mouse or something inside? How could that be ridiculous? When people were watching Goda act as though he had a bold personality fitting for his build, but in actuality an unexpectedly timid side to him. He was frightened that there might be something inside, and he couldn't bring himself to check it carelessly. In his cowardice, he grabbed a nearby wooden pestle, and with a clunk, he tapped it a little forcefully against the side of the pressure cooker. Immediately, the clanking sound suddenly stopped. He should have been relieved that it stopped, but the fact that it stopped when he hit it was even more eerie and made him even more suspicious about what was inside.
この世に怪奇現象なんて存在しませんとも。そんな魔女も魔法もそんなもの存在するわけがない。すべての現象は科学的に説明できるんです。お化けも魔女もいてたまるもんですか。
He repeated that many times, trying to build up his own confidence. The gap between what he was saying and what he was doing was quite comical.
何が魔女だ。何が魔法だ。たたりだ。そら。正体を見せてみろ。そら。
He removed the lid of the pressure cooker, and lying exposed there was the sparkling clean silver bottom of the pot. There was absolutely nothing frightening like he'd imagined.
そりゃ当然です。中に何もいるわけがない。
By now, Goda realized that he had been a coward. So, while he was trying, he still had some doubts as to what had caused the lid to make the sound. He figured it wasn't a big problem, decided not to worry about it too much. He took the lid he'd grabbed, put it softly back down where it had been. It's fine, it won't make a sound. Of course it won't. As if witches and or magic could exist. Clank, 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 clank. I'm not going to read all of these. All of the pots and dishes from the kitchen suddenly started clanking at once. It grew even stronger, so that finally the lid to one of the pots fell off. And inside the pot, the slender white arm reached out. Lids fell off the other pots one by one, and another, and another.
魔女なんかいるもんか。信じるもんか。
When the number of arms grew to 7, a loud shrill laughter split the air.
がっかり。これほどの美味しいお料理を作れる人がこんな小物なんて本当にがっかり。あんたいらないんなら私がもらうわ。いっただき。ちょっとダメだってば。私がもらうんだから。
Come on, let's search with only one more. That old hag. Where is she? She isn't in the mansion. What about the guest house? The first one wins, right? Come on, search, find her. Don't be noticed by the relatives in the dining hall, right? And don't get noticed by the kids in the guest house, right? Search in silence, kill in silence. After all, it's still just the first twilight. She isn't in the guest house, but she wasn't in the mansion either, right? Hey, I found her. She's in the rose garden. Why is she standing around there without an umbrella? She's already given up. All mine. You blockheads can just sit there and watch. I told you no, this one's mine. Come on, if we wait any longer, we'll be scolded by Beatrice. Let's take care of it all at once. They found her, surrounded her. Come on, let's get along and do it all at once, okay?
What? やんちゃなお嬢さんたちだこと。あの子のお友達かしら。
何こいつ。ババアのくせに。何かの間違いよ。もう一度。こいつ、どうして私たちを防げるの？どいて！もう一度よ！
何度やっても無駄だ。この誤人、できる。
私はあの子を待っているのです。どうか呼んできてはくれませんか？
そのようなデッチ暴行、私たちがすると思う？その必要はない。
Wait, is Kumasawa the original Beatrice?
ベアトリーチェ様。
私が権限するほどでございます。必ずやお目覚めと思いました。
ロノウェイ、久しぶりですね。本当に久しぶりです。
こいつロノウェ様を呼びつけに。
そしてあなたもお久しぶりですね、ベアトリーチェ。
こいつベアトリーチェ様までも呼びつけに。よい、そのお方をどなたと心得るか。ベアトリーチェとはそもそもそのお方の名。わらわはそれを受け継いだに過ぎぬ。
Though she didn't kill her for some
そ
reason.
のお方こそは先代ベアトリーチェ教だ。先代ベアトリーチェ教。
God butterflies appeared in ones and twos from Rose Garden of Rose began to flutter around Kumasawa. Then she appeared to you wrapped in a golden sparkle. She burst and disappeared, and Kumasawa's form was no longer there. Instead, there was another golden witch, the one who once taught the path of the endless witch to Beatrice, and the only person Beatrice ever called teacher. Her hair was long, beautiful, and vividly youthful, and her figure in her elegant dress couldn't possibly be mistaken for an old lady. No, it was just like a completely different person to Kumasawa.
これはお師匠様。再びお会いできる日が訪れるとは夢にも思いませんでした。ええ、私もですよ。よもやまた眠りを妨げられるとは夢にも思いませんでした。まったく厄介なところでお目覚めになられる。いつもの通りお休みであられたなら第一の晩を何も手こずることなく終えられるのに。いや、むしろ歓迎すべきですかな。少々退屈しておりましたところで。相変わらず悪趣味な遊びで罪もない人々をもてあそんでいるようですね。無限の魔女の力は決して人に迷惑をかけることに使ってはならないと何度も教えたはずですよ。そう言うなよ、お師匠様。退屈は私たちの天敵じゃありませんか。それから逃れるためのちょっとしたスパイスに過ぎませんよ。侵食が進めば進むほどにわらわの力は強くなり、しかしそれは同時にお師匠様の封印を解くことにもつながったとはな。それを予見していたからこそ私はこうしてあなたのすぐ近くで眠りについたのですよ。願わくば二度と起こされぬことを夢見ながら。こうしてあなたと再会してしまったのは私にとってはとても悲しいことです。相変わらずロノウェ、家具の子たちを下げなさい。家具は主に仕えるだけです。すべての罪は主が背負います。
かしこまりました、マダム・ベアトリーチェ。
その名はもうその子に譲りました。さあ下がりなさい、家具の娘たち。私は一度聞かぬとしても二度言います。しかし三度目は口にしませんよ。
下がりなさい。煉獄の七姉妹。巻き添いになれば塵と化しますよ。
下がれみんな。
One of the seven sisters of Purgatory retreated. After that, what remained was Beatrice, whose daring expression didn't falter, and the teacher Beatrice, who had given up that name and wore a composed smile.
さてお師匠様、久しぶりの再会にはどんなお茶のご用意が良いかな。そうですね、ほうき星の訪れよりも久しい再会です。もてなしてもらいましょうか。粗相があるようならば我が名と無限の魔女の称号返してもらいますよ。無限の魔女にも免許更新制度があったとはな。仰せのままにお師匠様、あなたの弟子がどれほど立派になったか、そしてとっくの昔にどれほどあなたを凌駕したか、とくとご覧に入れましょう。
The air between the two Beatrices seemed to explode with sparks. Just by glancing at each other, they purged all spirits from that space. As they watched, the seven sisters shivered. After all, if they had retreated just 3 steps less than they had, they would have been turned to dust by now.
さあいらっしゃい、ベアトリーチェ。あなたにその名を譲ったことが私の生涯でただ一度の後悔です。その過ちを今自らの手で修正しましょう。そりゃあ違うぜ、お師匠様。わらわのただ一度の過ちはこの程度の力を学ぶのにあんたに弟子入りしちまったことだぜ。なんが魔法だ、何が無限の魔女だ。こんなの気づくだけの力じゃねえかよ。それをもったいぶって偉そうによ。お前の出番はとっくに終わってんだよ、お師匠様よ。
もうわけがわからねえ。一体目の前で何が起こってんだ。
かわいそう、私の弟子が迷惑をかけていますね。謝ります。
あんた何熊沢のばあちゃんがどうしてこんな姉ちゃんに化けるんだ。つうかあんた誰だよ。わけがわからねえ。これは何の特撮なんだ。俺は頭がどうにかなっちまいそうだ。
私はあの子の魔女の師匠です。かつての名はベアトリーチェ。あの子が私を継ぐときにその名を送ったため今は名を持ちません。
あんたがすでに言い切っちまってるが、俺はあんたの弟子のせいで大いに迷惑しているぜ。頼むから責任取って何とかしてくれ。じゃなくて俺はこんなの信じねえぞ。魔女も魔法もあるもんか。こんなめちゃくちゃバトル俺は認めねえぞ。クソったれ、俺は何を信じりゃいいんだ。
あなたらしいとても短気なもてなしですね。 さすがお師匠様。この程度じゃバカバカしくてまぶたを開く気にもならないらしい。島ごとぶっ壊す気でなきゃ無理らしいぜ。さあさあおいでなさい、双剣の戦闘。
In response to Beatrice's summons, a terrific earth tremor split the rose garden, and on either side of her shoulders 2 massive war towers sprouted and stabbed into the heavens. What? Why? They stretched up to 100 moats tall, and each had over 360 ports. They were war towers of the god's army corps, which had prevented even groups of ancient heroes from invading their sacred ground. As Beatrice elegantly floated in the gap between the 2 massive 2-headed towers, she looked like down on her teacher, staring with a sense of absolute superiority. With the 2 massive towers lined up behind her shoulders, the witch looked very small, like a butterfly dancing between huge trees.
蝶に化ければかわせるとか思うなよ。双子塔の弾幕密度じゃあんた虫ピンの昆虫標本どころかめった刺しの針刺し人形だぜ。
What is this, Toho or something? Of the 720 ports open on the towers, and godly soldiers ready their multi-shot ballistas.
それであなたの手番は終了ですか。それが遺言かよ。ぶっ放せ。
The ballistic shots that numbered over 1,000 were fired all at once, drawing a beautiful geometric curtain of death. The boyish sounds as bowstrings were played was probably even deeper than of a reaper swinging its sickle.
さあさあおいでなさい。一なる言語を恥ぜ、その罪を知らしめよ。
The sky was stained with an incandescent red, and from between the clouds a blazing massive tower fell upside down. That massive burning tower, falling tower and its rubble sucked in the thousands of blister shots so that not one of them approached the body of a witch who had summoned it. She's just using a spell card. That's right, no group of people, no matter how large, could approach this mysteries of the heaven. That was the reality of the fallen tower.
さすがお師匠様。いちいちやることがでけえや。私の手番は終わりませんよ。さあさあおいでなさい、イバルディの息子たち。
So it's you doing that.
我にふさわしき槍を与えたまえ。
As the massive crimson tower that had fallen made a terrible gold-coloured explosion, a massive spear appeared from the inside of those flames, so tall like a tower that you could look it up and see all of it. It was too large to even for a giant's hand. That divinely beautiful spear of the gods was so massive it gave the illusion that the fallen tower had turned into a spear of the same size. We're just making this up as they go along. It was a spear of a certain victory that no one could escape.
無用の双子塔ですね。自ら左右の退路を断つとは愚かしい。一本の槍をもお前は防げない。
When she snapped her fingers in command, the massive tower-sized spears shot at Beatrice like a lightning bolt. It aimed at the middle of the center of the golden witch's heart with extreme precision, as she danced in the gap between the towers like a butterfly, flying straight through the air like a flash of lightning.
こんなところでグングニルが弾けるとは。やっぱりお師匠様はすげえな。はぜろ、役立たずの塔。いでよ、巨人兵の戦列よ。その盾と胸で 神なる槍を防ぎきれ。
The shoulder of the war tower was exploded in gold, where it became several billion gold butterflies. Both butterflies took the shape of 7 massive armed soldiers, each stretched a full 50 modes into the sky. I have no idea what my measurement is. And they lined up in front of the edifice, protecting their master while holding massive shields that towered like windmills. They were massive as a mountain. How am I supposed to prove that magic doesn't exist? Which behind them was like a small moon eating behind the mountains. Once in the past, when the massive shields of those giants had been readied against by the whole regiment, they had protected King Wilhelm's castle not from the arrows but from the wind and rain. For when they had been faced upwards and held their shields to the heavens, and a single raindrop had gone through.
愚かな神聖への敬いを忘れた魔女の哀れなことです。神の槍を巨人ごときで防げるとお思いですか。
道理ですね。人間の金属でいくら武装しようとも神の槍は防げません。マダムの見事なエポレットメイドです。
そんなベアトリーチェ様。
もちろん忘れませんともお師匠様。さあさあおいでなさい、ヘパイストスと弟子たち。我にふさわしき盾を与えたまえ。
A golden whirlwind rose from the feet of giant soldiers, hit with a cloud of countless butterflies. They attached themselves to massive shields like a gold leaf, sparkling like they were gold armor. It was the absolute defense wall given to a goddess by the chief of gods, the Aegis shield. When the holy spear, which left a dignified trail behind it like a comet, crashed into the mountain range of that gold shield, there was a terrible thunderous roar. Okay. That's gonna wake someone up. There's no way the people of the house don't hear that. It was the creaking of the pillars that held up the heavens. The divine spear spun around and around and was sent flying in the direction of the setting sun.
ありえない。真相を防いだ。
いいえ、違います。神なる槍が避けたのです。絶対の槍と絶対の盾は争ってはいけないのが神々の掟。それはつまり防いだのと同じことですがね。
このような荒事ばかり腕を上げましたね。むしろお師匠様はこういうお遊びが相変わらず苦手なようで。わらわからのお返しだ。法典にのっとり、槍には槍でお返ししましょうぜ。
The giant told to her battle line, which had been fully blocked with divine spear, released its holy gold shield. These shields set the earth, making the ground shake. When they did, another gold whirlwind approached, and 7 gold shields changed their form to 7 massive spears of lightning lying on the ground. At once, each of the giants lifted up with their legs high and firmly stomped on the tips of their handles. As the earth shook with thunderous sounds, the 7 lightning spears spun beautifully and flew up above the giant soldiers' heads. They scattered into a golden splash and began to fall before the giants. Each of the giants squared off, and with the force of their whole body they kicked and smashed them. The broken pieces, numbered exactly 13, became lightning spears of exactly the same size as the originals, which made 210 of the 7 giants, and all those burst once again, each splitting into 13 fords for a total of 6,300. They became a barrage of thunderclouds drawing in a beautiful geometric pattern, and each of them changed into 3 bolts of lightning, so that 18,900 thunderbolts shot at the predecessor Beatrice. A bundle of almost 20,000 thunderbolts must have reduced the teacher's body to dust. But there had been no resistance. Beatrice knew immediately that she had been fooled. At the time the direction of the sun had supposedly set, she felt impossible rays of sunlight. A brilliant ray of light shone on her profile. It was a figure of her teacher holding aloft the spear of the god that had supposed been repelled a short while ago. She bore a sparkle in the sun on her back and made it shine on the incarnation of darkness. As Beatrice watched, she was trapped like a mouse in a cage, cornered in a dead end, formed by a giant soldier battle line. By now, the predecessor Beatrice had seized an opportunity directly alongside that line.
これでお遊戯の時間はおしまいですよ、ベアトリーチェ。このわらわが宿命を許しただと。
Her bold expression hadn't faltered even once, now twisted for the first time. And faster than Beatrice could click her tongue, predecessor Beatrice released the Holy Spear. As it leapt through the air, it changed its form once more.
さあさあおいでなさい、ドベルグの兄弟たち。我に巨人を砕きし天の鉄槌を与えたまえ。巨人兵ども、わらわを守れ。何をしているかノロマども。
By now it was no longer a spear, but a whirlwind of a massive hammer that raised a sound like a windstorm that flew through the air. It was a legendary hammer that had shaken even the king of the frost gods. Though the giant soldiers couldn't escape from that fear, so regardless of how strongly their master ordered them, they couldn't get in the path of that hammer.
バックランクメイト、安らかに眠りなさい。しょー。
Before the whirlwind of that massive chunk of metal, Beatrice was nothing more than a mere speck. The instant the whirlwind struck, it started to suck Beatrice in, she appeared to change into a massive war tower. The iron hammer smashed into the war tower, scattering tremendous amounts of rubble, but it did not reach she who had escaped behind it. Furthermore, when the smoke settled, the war tower had sucked in the massive iron hammer about crumbling and blocked the way. Even the giant smashing iron hammer couldn't break through the final tower protecting the witch. However, this war tower was actually the witch's last trump card. It was a war tower for dodging that could only save her from danger once. Though this tower was impregnable, no weapon could break through it. At that time, the moon disappeared as Beatrice hid in the shadows of the gold giant soldier battle line and the war tower. She looked at the sky. When she did, inside the moon, the figure of a massive horse written by the god of death, war and death. What the fuck is going on? The predecessor Beatrice rode the horse with him. His cloak being blocked by the moon and swallowed in an eerie shadow, and the spear of the gods was in his hand once more. In other words, it was a godly knight who had jumped over the ramparts formed by the giant soldiers and the war tower attacking from the heavens.
スマザードメイト、楽しかったですよ、ベアトリーチェ。
The struggle of death between the two witches with the same name was over. The spear vividly launched from the heavens pierced the ground. The giant soldier battle line of the war tower split into the countless gold butterflies wrapped in the area of a gold-coloured storm. Then came the sound of thunder and the sound of the falling wind and rain. If you looked around, the rose garden was empty. The butler and the rest were watching the two witches confronting each other. But Beatrice alone had changed. She had been pierced straight through by the spear from the base of her neck and her right shoulder to her left buttocks, unable to even reach the ground with her feet. Horribly exposed like a pitiful pinned butterfly tormented by the wind and the rain.
ベアトリーチェ様。
さすが恐ろしいお方です。
これで決着です、ベアトリーチェ。
Beatrice wore a bitter smile of false courage, but a strand of blood dangled from her mouth, making it look even more pitiful.
無限の魔女の称号と力、そしてベアトリーチェの名を今こそ返してもらいましょう。無限の魔女を語るにはお前は未熟が過ぎます。
やめて、許しておくれよ、お嬢様。ちょっとふざけただけじゃねえかよ。
あなたから我が名を奪います。元の姿に戻してあげましょう。過ぎたる力を手放し、己にふさわしい生を全うするがよいでしょう。さあさあ、思い出してごらんなさい。
Wait, is Lambda Delta gonna show up and stop this from
あ
happening?
なたがどんな姿をしていたのか。
The predecessor Beatrice began to recite the words of power. When she did, small gold butterflies gathered near the skewered Beatrice and began to swarm about her. Like butterflies sucking the nectar out of flowers, they began to suck the magical power out of Beatrice. It seemed to cause her intense pain. A cry of anguish issued from Beatrice's mouth. She no longer had any power to resist it.
さあさあ、目を閉じてごらんなさい。思い出してごらんなさい。あなたがどんな姿をしていたのか。さあ、ベアトリーチェ、あなたも私と一緒に復唱なさい。一緒にお歌を歌いましょう。そうすればすぐに終わりますよ。あなたの苦痛が少しでも早く終わります。
そうだな。お師匠様と一緒にお歌を歌うなんて、どれくらいぶりかな。
さあ、一緒に。さあさあ、思い出してごらんなさい。あなたがどんな姿をしていたのか。
さあさあ、思い出してごらんなさい。あなたがどんな姿をしていたのか。
When the two of them began to recite the same song, more and more gold butterflies danced around, swarming around Beatrice.
大丈夫ですよ、お嬢様。あなたは私の弟子であることを失いますが、私の仕えるお嬢様であることに変わりはありません。そうしたらまた一緒にご本を読んで差し上げましょう。リンゴのパイを焼いて差し上げましょう。昔のように。さあさあ、思い出してごらんなさい。
思い出してごらんなさい。そろそろ思い出せてきたかな。なあ、お師匠様。あ んたの後ろにあるそれ思い出したかな？
何ですか？これは。
Princess Beatrice looked behind her. There was an eerie hedgehog curled up there. No, it was herself. There was another Princess Beatrice whose body had been packed with blister shots, lying there like a pincushion doll.
さあさあ思い出してごらんなさい。あなたがどんな姿をしていたのか。違うか。さあさあ思い出してごらんなさい。あなたがどうやって殺されたのか。
Princess Beatrice was stunned. Her form gradually began to fade away.
これはいつの間に。
最初に呼んだのは双剣の塔ではない。四つ子の塔だったのよ。お師匠様の左右はるかに潜んだ隠し塔が描くセブンスランクルークの死の境界線を、お師匠様はのこのこと踏み越えてきてくれた。チェックの発生が遅れてしまったことだけはマナー違反。率直に謝ろうぞ。
Battle had been decided from the very beginning. It had been over since the time Princess Beatrice had leaned forward, readying her holy spear to attack Beatrice, who had been wedged by the shoulder towers. The hidden tower was lurking either side of Babe Donor, windstorm of ballistic shots from 720 ports on both sides, pinning and killing her. But Beatrice hadn't wanted to just throw it like that. She wanted to let the teacher take her next move and continue acting as though the game was still on. She had immediately revived her with the endless power, and had made her continue the game as though nothing had happened. Then the predecessor Beatrice slowly remembered that she had already been killed, and began to vanish completely. When she did, the spear that had pierced Beatrice also vanished. Beatrice finally landed on the ground. She wasn't even a trace of a scar.
楽しかったぞ。お師匠様。また遊びたくなったらいつでも蘇らせてやるよ。それで適当に遊んだら死体だったことをまた思い出させてやるからさ。なあ、ちゃんとあんたの言いつけは守ってるぜ。おもちゃは遊び終わったらちゃんとおもちゃ箱にしまいましょうってな。
楽勝でございますかな。
愚かな心象だ。四つ子島で騙せてなかったら死んでおったのはわらわの方よ。さすがはお師匠様だが、これで胸が張れるというもの。わらわは今こそお師匠様を完全に超えたとな。ロノウェ、お師匠様の亡骸をもう少しマシにしておけ。わらわもそこまで敬意を失ってはおらぬでな。
かしこまりました。今宵の第一の晩は少々派手に暴れすぎました。少しは片付けも必要でしょう。すぐに取り掛かります。ヤギたちよ、お片付けの時間ですよ。
When Abe snapped his fingers, blazing, sparkling eyes began to blink open in the shadows and darkness, becoming goat-headed attendants that appeared one after the other. One by one, they wordlessly stood at attention in a line behind Renobe's back.
この度は6人の遺体をどのようにいたしますか。また密室形式に。
わらわは今それを考える気分にない。ロノウェに任す。バトラーを悩ませるようなとびっきりの密室を頼むぞ。
かしこまりました。それではとびきりの。
それ、バトラはどこだ？バトラー、わらわの大活躍見た？
くしょー、今のめちゃくちゃな魔法の嵐を見せつけられて、俺は何を否定すればいいんだ。魔女はいるも何も、あんなドッカンドッカン凄まじいファンタジーを見せつけられて、今の俺は何を否定すりゃいいんだよ。もうわかんねえ。前回もそうだが、このイーカス的なマジカルバトルをどう否定すりゃいいんだよ。
だよな。こんなの見ちまったらもう言い逃れはできねえもんな。さあバトラー、とんでも推理を聞かせてくれよ。
お嬢様、笑いに品がございませんよ。
おお、これはすまぬ。しかしわらわの責任ではないぞ。何しろバトラにキューッと両目を固く閉じてキリキリギリギリ歯ぎしりするなんとも悔しそうなその表情を見せられると、自然とわらわの口からこぼれてしまうものでな。
さあバトラ様、くじけずにテーブルへお戻りを。お嬢様はバトラ様の反撃を期待されておりますよ。
ふざけるな。何をどう反論すりゃいいってんだ。まずあの塔が地面から生えてきたあたりからもうめちゃくちゃだろうが、実は六軒島の地下に合体変形巨大ロボの秘密研究所でもあって、ボタン一つでおかしな塔が生えてくるってのか。ああ、それならあのでけえ巨人どもはきっとロボットだぜ。あるいは悪の秘密結社のメカ怪獣かもな。わけわかんねえよ。俺に話しかけるんじゃねえ。うわ
ほらほらほらほら、泣くなよ。魔法でドッカンドッカン。そなたが望むなら月だって砕くし、水星を雨のようにだって降らすさ。お前好みのムチムチ姉ちゃんで島を埋め尽くしてやってもいいんだぜ。さあさあ、ほらほらほら、わらわの出番は終わったぜ。
And this is supposed to be on even footing.
受け手をさせよ。反撃しろよ。できねえだろ。できねえのは船長も承知よ。お前こういうのダメだもんな。こういうファンタジー本当は大好きなんだもんな。知ってんだよ。今時こんなの巷にいくらでも溢れてるじゃねえか。漫画に小説、アニメに映画。10代くらいのガキンチョたちがおかしな特殊能力いっぱい持ってて、世界の命運かけてドッカンバッカンやるやつ。
How do you know about? You've been trapped on an island for 1,000 years. How do you know? Who told? I want to know.
お前も大好きだもんな。知ってんだよ。隠すなよ。大好きじゃねえかよ。そのお前の大好きなやつがちょいと目の前で披露されただけじゃねえかよ。どうして漫画やアニメのそれは信じてくれるのに、わらわのだけ信じてくれねえんだよ。
Drugs. I could just say all an illusion, didn't happen. Pixar didn't happen.
信じろよ、信 信じろよ、信じちまえよ。
To just be a massive illusion from something run over spiking the tea or something.
反論なんかできねえさ。こうして見せられちまったんだからな。ほらほらほらほら、返事をしろよ。思考はいらねえ。素直にごめんなさいベアトリーチ様って言えばいいんだよ。
Because that was very loud and nobody's come out to check out what just happened. Nobody saw that at all. We know that the adults are still in the lounge and that like overlooks the garden or something, I'm not entirely sure. So they would have either heard it or straight seen it happen and nobody's come out to see what's going on. Which means that only Battler might have been able to see it. Therefore it didn't happen.
ごめんなさいベアトリーチ様って言ってみろよ。言えよ言えよ、恥ずかしがるなよ。